While going up the stairs with groceries, I heard my brother's voice from inside my apartment. I stood in the hallway. He remarked, "You're wasting your body and time on a joke. Let him go tonight. I'll show you what you've been missing." My girlfriend chuckled and replied, "You're right. I'm finished with him. I'm just waiting for the perfect moment." I grinned. An hour later, I entered as if nothing had happened. 2 days later, I made a decision that left them in tears outside my door. Since then, my phone has been non-stop ringing. They're calling from various numbers, pleading with acquaintances I hardly know. Please tell him to unblock us. He's ruining us. Make him stop. Tell him I'm sorry. Please. Just one chance. So, I've never posted here before. I usually just observe, because most stories seem totally fake. But honestly, after today, I somewhat understand why people do this. There's nowhere else to express all this. I'm still trembling a bit. To be honest, if this is messy, I'm sorry. Also on mobile, so you get my unfiltered typing. Whatever. For context, I'm Mark, 27. I have a brother, Gustavo, 29, and I live with my girlfriend, Lena, 26, in this apartment I chose last year. It's not luxurious or anything, but it has a quirky little balcony. Sometimes I work on my bike out there, which is nice. Anyway, Lena moved in around March. We've been dating for a few years. Gustavo has his own place about 20 minutes away, but he visits frequently, probably too frequently, often unannounced. My mom says that's just how family is, but I think she doesn't want to take sides when Gustavo and I clash. Today was already annoying. I had to run like 5 errands after work, and the grocery store was crowded, plus the bag handles practically tore up my hands since I forgot my canvas ones. So I'm coming up the stairs juggling bags and my phone's buzzing nonstop from some group chat. Not important, but it was irritating. When I reached my floor, something felt off. Not scary, just odd. The door didn't seem fully shut. You know that little gap where you can see light inside? Also, music was playing, but it wasn't. From my playlist. Whatever. I went to push the door open, but stopped because I heard voices. I recognized it was Gustavo and Lena, which was strange. I didn't even know he was coming over, and I'd never seen them hang out alone. I stood there debating whether to go in, but then I actually heard their conversation. They weren't being quiet. Gustavo was saying how Lena was wasting her time and energy on a joke, which I assume was me, and she should just let me go. Then he got all gross, saying he'd show her what she's been missing. Lena laughed, not just politely, but genuinely. She said she was done with me and just waiting for the right moment. So, I stood there holding 2 bags, milk leaking through. One because, of course, and I just froze. I think I expected them to stop or notice me, but they continued talking. They started discussing my belongings too, like who would get what. Gustavo joked about taking my bike if I wouldn't need it anymore. Lena said she'd probably have to block me because I would get dramatic. I almost laughed at that. Honestly, that's precisely what she always says when she's upset. Calls me dramatic, as if I'm the issue. I'm not going to pretend I'm some unbothered dude. I have a temper. And Gustavo has always known how to push my buttons, competing with me since we were kids. I think he resents that I left our parents' house first and did it on my own. He still borrows money from them, or me occasionally. Lena's been distant with me lately, but I thought it was just stress, or maybe she was irritated. I'm always fixing things around the house instead of going out. I even asked her last week if everything was okay, and she just rolled her eyes, saying I was being paranoid. I lingered outside the door for about 5 minutes, which felt like an hour, just listening. At one point, Gustavo said he was tired of watching Mark act like he owns everything, and that it was time for a change. He's always been that way. He's not foolish, he just thinks he deserves more than he has. I can't count how many times our moms told him to be more like me, and I know that infuriated him. So, I guess him pursuing Lena is his way of getting back at me. I don't know. I know Lena's last relationship ended badly because she cheated. She said it was because her ex was controlling. I hadn't thought much about it. I finally placed the bags down outside the door. I didn't even want to face them. Not yet. I went back down the stairs, didn't even text anyone, just walked around the block a few times. I called my friend Harlow, but didn't mention it. We just talked about some meme he sent me last night. I was shaking a little. I dropped my phone at one point. I just needed time to process everything I heard. The more I thought about it, the less surprised I felt. It was like all these little things added up. Lena always defending Gustavo during our arguments. Gustavo sending her TikToks and memes like it was no big deal. Items disappearing from the kitchen. Both of them blaming each other or me. I waited an hour, maybe a bit longer. Then I returned upstairs, picked up my groceries, and walked in as if nothing happened. Gustavo was on the couch. Lena was in the kitchen, both behaving unusually normal. She was on her phone. He was half watching some show. I dropped the bags a little harder than I intended, and Gustavo glanced at me like he was about to say something, but then didn't. Lena barely looked up. I said something like, "Hope you didn't eat all my leftovers." Gustavo smirked, but didn't reply. It was tense, but not in a way they'd notice unless they were looking closely. The rest of the night felt off. Gustavo left after about 30 minutes. Lena said she was tired and went to bed early. I stayed up just scrolling through Reddit and thinking about everything. I kept expecting her to ask what was wrong, but she didn't. I think she thought I was upset about something trivial, like the groceries or the mess in the kitchen. So, yeah, I didn't explode. I didn't confront them. I just smiled and acted normal, but I have a plan. I'm not exactly the forgiving type, and honestly, I'm sick of being the guy who gets walked over because of family. I'm not letting this slide. I'll update if anyone wants to know what happens next, but I'll say this. I'm not just going to walk away and let them laugh about it. Not a chance. Update 1. So, this is a strange update. I wasn't actually sure if I would come back and post, but now my mind is a bit scrambled. After the DMs from last time, maybe I just want to see if anyone else is as furious as I am. This is going to be messy. Still not sleeping well. So, after the whole grocery incident, if you didn't read part 1, just scroll. I'm not going through all that again. I played it cool. Not friendly, just normal. I didn't say anything. I needed time to figure out what I actually wanted to do. Not just explode and give them something to twist back on. And I wanted to see if they would slip up or if I was just losing it. Honestly, I kept second-guessing whether I heard it right. But the way they behaved afterward, no. Things started getting weird almost immediately. Lena barely spoke to me that night, just scrolled through her phone and claimed she had a headache. Classic. Gustavo texted me the next morning as if nothing had happened, asking to borrow my charger. I just replied, "Sure, whatever." I didn't even want to see him, but I figured, fine. Let's see how he acts in person. So, he came by the next day, let himself in. I hate that he still has a key. That's on me. And just settled himself at the counter. He was extra loud with Lena, making jokes he knew I wouldn't understand, laughing at things on her phone, acting like I wasn't even there. At one point, I caught him looking at me, and he just grinned. I asked him what was funny, and he said nothing, but kept grinning. I swear he wanted me to start something so he could act like I was the issue. Lena was acting strangely too, like she was tiptoeing around me, but still had this little smile when he was around. She kept accidentally brushing by him in the kitchen. I'm not oblivious. I noticed. What really set me off was later that night when my mom called. She asked if everything was all right with me and Lena, and I was like, "Why are you asking?" Turns out, Gustavo had been over at her place talking about how I was stressed and paranoid lately, and maybe Lena deserved better. He made it sound like I was some basket case who was impossible to live with. I asked my mom if Lena said anything, and she said no, but she's been quiet at family dinners. So basically, they were preparing for the big pour us act. It felt like everyone was gearing up for me to be the villain. I'm not going to lie, that almost made me snap. I was this close to just packing Lena's stuff and leaving it by the door. But nah, I wanted to see how deep this went. So, yeah, maybe I crossed a line, but I checked Lena's phone when she left it in the bathroom. I know her passcode. She never changed it. I wasn't even subtle about it. Just scrolled through her messages. There it was. She and Gustavo had been texting for months. Not just flirty texts, but actual plans for what they would do when I was out. Like splitting bills, mocking the way I clean, even discussing my bike. Gustavo even sent her a picture of my old hoodie he borrowed. She said she couldn't wait to wear it in front of me. So now it's not just cheating. It's them scheming how to get rid of me and take over my apartment. And get this, Lena's not on the lease. She moved in last year. We were going to add her name, but she never got around to it. Gustavo's asking her if the landlord is okay. With him crashing for a while, they're literally planning to push me out and set up shop in my place like it's a joke. That's when I stopped feeling sad and just got furious. I started making a list of everything that's technically mine. Furniture, TV, the bike, Wi-Fi is in my name, all of it. I checked the lease just to be sure. And yeah, only my name. No subletting without approval, and any guests have to be out in a week if I say so. I almost laughed. They're both so cocky they didn't even bother to check. Lena kept saying she'd figure it out when the time came. Gustavo was all, he's too soft, he'll just give up. Okay. I started watching how they acted. Lena tried to be extra nice, offers to cook, asks if I want anything from the store, calls me babe in front of Gustavo like she's covering all her bases. Gustavo, on the other hand, kept making jabs. He accidentally knocked over my bike. I told him to be careful, and he shrugged, saying, maybe I should keep it somewhere safer. I told him to stay out of the storage closet, and he just laughed. Later, I heard them arguing in the hallway. Lena said I was getting suspicious. Gustavo told her to relax, saying I'm not smart enough to catch on. Wow, guess I'm just here for their entertainment. I started keeping my stuff locked up. Laptop, passport, anything important. I moved some cash I had stashed to a lockbox. At my parents' house. I didn't even tell them why, just said I was organizing. My dad thinks it's strange, but whatever. He's distracted by some feud with his neighbor. Anyway, at this point, I'm basically living with two strangers, pretending everything's fine. The tension is thick, but nobody says anything. Lena tries to get me to go out with her, says she wants to discuss something. I say I'm busy. She slams the door and texts Gustavo that she's done pretending. I see it all on her phone later, when she's in the shower. Gustavo says to just let it play out until I snap. The next day, I get a call from my landlord. Someone's been asking about adding a new tenant. Guess who? Gustavo. The landlord says he only talks to me, not randoms. I tell him not to add anyone, and he says, fine, just wanted to check. So now they're not just scheming. They're trying to make it official. I'm so done. I get home and Gustavo's in my chair, feet up, eating my leftovers, acting like he owns the place. I tell him to get out, and he pushes past me. He shoulders me, grabs his stuff, and leaves. Lena comes out, asks what happened, and when I tell her I'm fed up with him, she just shrugs and says it's not her issue. I tell her I know what's going on. She pales for a second and then just says, I'm being dramatic again, and walks out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame falls off the wall. I start packing her stuff right then, every little thing into bags and boxes. Not neatly, I don't care. I text my friend Harlow and ask if I can crash for a night or two just to get out of my own head. He says fine, but asks if I'm okay. I'm not, but I don't say it. I fall asleep on the couch that night just waiting for the next move. I know I'm not going to just let them take everything. I have a plan. I know exactly what I'm going to do, and it's not just blocking them or walking away. Next post will probably upset some people, but I don't care. I'm done playing nice. Time to see what happens when you push the joke too far. Update 2. All right, this is the part everyone seems to want. So, here it is. Honestly, I barely slept, and I'm still running on caffeine and spite. If you were hoping for some wise, peaceful closure post, just go read literally any other sub. If you ever wondered what it looks like when someone finally snaps, buckle up. This is where it goes from awkward to ugly. After all that nonsense with Lena and Gustavo, see last post, I spent 2 days keeping everything low-key. I didn't explode. I didn't even mention it. I just observed them, listened, made notes in my phone. It's wild how quickly people get cocky when they think you're clueless. Lena started leaving her laptop open like she wasn't hiding anything. Gustavo began showing up every afternoon, eating my food, leaving his dirty socks in the living room like he owned the place. I swear there was a day I returned home, and they were both sitting on the couch watching some trashy YouTube drama, sharing a bag of chips, barely even looking up. I just walked in, dropped my bag, and headed to my room. I think Lena muttered something about me being moody. She always said I was too sensitive. But the way she said it, then felt like a test. The next morning, I noticed the Wi-Fi was slow. I checked the router and some random device was connected. Gustavo must have given the password to a friend or something because there was a new phone on the list. Later, I found a beer can under the couch that wasn't mine. I texted Gustavo, and he just sent back a laughing emoji. So, yeah, they were getting really comfortable. I could have just kicked them both out right then, but I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to see what happens when you treat someone like they're a joke. So, I started planning. Nothing illegal. I'm not trying to get arrested for people who'd sell me out for a free meal, but I wanted it to sting. First, I called my landlord. We're not friends or anything, but he's always been cool if you're honest with him. I let him know that Lena wasn't on the lease and that my guest, Gustavo, had basically moved in without permission. He asked if I wanted to file an official complaint. I said not yet, but I wanted it on record. He said he'd handle it if I wanted them both out, just needed it in writing. Then he told me I could change the locks with his approval as long as I give Lena notice to remove her stuff. I said that was fine. I'd handle the notice. Then I went home and started packing. Not all at once, just little by little. Every time. Lena left for the gym or to run errands, aka probably meet Gustavo somewhere. I boxed up her clothes, her shoes, her annoying ring light, all her bathroom stuff. Literally everything that wasn't mine. I left her phone chargers tangled up, didn't even bother to wrap them. I found Gustavo's hoodie in the closet and threw it in one of the boxes too. I left all the boxes by the front door. That night, when Lena got home, she saw them and asked, "What's all this?" I said, "You'll see." She tried to laugh it off, but her face was tense. I just shrugged and went back to scrolling on my phone. She started texting furiously, probably to Gustavo. She slammed the bedroom door. The next day, I set up a group chat with my family, just me, my parents, Gustavo, and Lena. I sent a photo of the boxes with a message. Lena's moving out. Gustavo and Lena don't come to my place unless they have a reason. If anyone wants to know why, ask them, not me. My dad replied with a question. My mom called me, asking what happened. I just told her, "Ask Gustavo. I'm done explaining." Lena started crying, literally crying, begging me not to do this. She tried to grab my arm and I pulled away. She slapped me. I told her to leave. She started throwing things in the hallway. I didn't care. I told her she had 2 days to pick up her stuff, or I was donating it. Gustavo showed up 30 minutes later, banging on the door, yelling at me to open up. I didn't. He started screaming through the door, saying I was ruining everything, that I was overreacting. He tried to push his way in when I cracked open the door, so I shoved him back and slammed it. He kicked the door and left. My phone started blowing up. Texts from my mom, my dad, even some random cousin in another city. Lena was apparently calling everyone she could, saying I was kicking her out with nowhere to go. I just kept repeating, "Not my problem." I told my landlord to schedule a lock change for the next day. He said, "Okay." Lena tried to sneak back in that night, but I was sitting on the couch waiting. She tried to guilt me, saying she had nowhere else to go and that Gustavo promised her it would be fine. I told her to call him and figure it out. She left, slamming the door. The last straw was when I saw Gustavo waiting outside the building the next morning. He tried to follow me out, got in my face, shoved me. I shoved him back and told him to leave. He tried to say I was ruining the family, that I was acting crazy. I just laughed. I told him he was never getting a key again. He threatened to tell my parents everything. I said, "Go ahead, I already did." When Lena came for her stuff, she tried to take my speaker and my old PS4. I told her to put them back. She started yelling, so I just started recording on my phone. She backed down, crying again. She claimed she had nowhere to go, that Gustavo was supposed to take care of her. I said, "That's his issue now." They both ended up in the hallway crying, calling my name, begging me to open the door. I just sat on the couch and turned up the TV. I heard Gustavo kick the wall. Lena was sobbing. I haven't said anything else since then. My phone's been buzzing nonstop. Random numbers, people from Lena's side, even old friends I barely talked to. I just keep blocking. I gave my parents a basic explanation. Gustavo and Lena tried to play me. They're out. End of story. My dad just said, "All right, your house, your rules." My mom wants me to be the bigger person, but I'm done with that. So yeah, that's where it stands. I didn't just cut them off. I made sure they knew exactly what it cost them. I'm not sorry. If anything, I wish I'd done it sooner. If anyone cares, I'm not sure what comes next. But I'm not just letting it slide. Final update. It's been a few days since everything blew up, and honestly, I feel strangely numb. Not in a deep way. Just like I keep waiting for the next thing. And all that comes is more noise. It's not dramatic, it's just irritating now. And yeah, I'm still angry. If you were hoping for a big family hug or some forgiveness moment, you really don't understand how people act in real life, not some sitcom. First thing I noticed, my phone basically turned into a spam machine. I'd wake up to like 20 missed calls, half of them from random numbers I didn't even recognize. One was a landline. Like, who even has a landline? I ignored it all at first, thinking Lena and Gustavo would get bored and move on. But every hour it was something else. Texts, calls, voicemails, even emails. Lena left a handwritten note at my door, folded up and tucked under the mat. I tossed it in the trash without reading it. I'm not interested in her side. Even stranger, people I barely talked to started reaching out. Harlow texted me, saying Lena messaged him at 2 a.m., begging him to tell me to unblock her. Some old friend from high school DM'd me on Instagram, saying Gustavo asked if there was any way to reach me. I haven't talked to this guy in years. I guess they're trying every angle, but I'm not falling for it. My parents got dragged into it too, which I kind of expected. My mom called, saying Lena came by their place crying, wanting to explain. My dad asked if I really needed to be so harsh. I told him I'm not doing anything. I'm just done. Mom tried to say maybe I was overreacting, but then she spoke to my landlord, who she knows from way back, and found out what actually happened. Gustavo tried to get on the lease without telling me, and Lena tried to move her stuff back in after I'd packed it. The landlord had to tell her to leave. After that, my parents mostly stopped taking sides. They're not thrilled, but they're not backing Lena or Gustavo either. Gustavo's been blowing up the group chat, ranting about how I ruined his life and how he's homeless now. He tried to guilt trip my dad, but my dad just said, "You made your bed." Gustavo got furious and left the chat for a day, then returned with a string of voice messages. I didn't listen. I just deleted them. Lena's been quieter, but she sent a bunch of crying emojis, then called me from a new number. I blocked that one too. Lena tried to come back one more time, this time with her mom. I was in the kitchen and heard voices in the hallway. So I opened the door and said, "You're not coming in." Her mom tried to say Lena just needed a minute for closure. I told her, "Not happening. You had weeks to get your stuff. It's gone now." Lena started yelling. I told her to stop. She tried to push past me. I blocked her with my arm. Her mom started crying too. I just shut the door. They stood out there for a while, then left. I heard from a neighbor later that night that Gustavo had been in the parking lot yelling on the phone, saying I'd destroyed his family. Not my issue. He could have just not been a snake, but I guess that's too hard for some people. I did get one call that made me pause. My cousin called, saying Gustavo was trying to crash at his place, but he said no. Apparently, Gustavo burned him on some money last year, so he's not interested in getting screwed again. My cousin asked if I was okay. I said, "Yeah, just tired." He said, "Good. Don't let them back in." Lena lost her job apparently because she put my address on all her paperwork, and now she can't prove where she lives. I didn't do anything to make that happen, but she tried to blame me. I just said maybe she should ask Gustavo for help. Gustavo, meanwhile, is couch surfing with some friend who's already sick of him. He texted me from a new number saying I was petty and that family should forgive. I blocked that one too. The best was when one of Lena's old friends, who I literally met once at a party, called me and begged me to unblock her. She was crying, really dramatic, saying Lena was a mess and needed one last chance. I just said, "This is not your problem," and hung up. Honestly, most people have started taking my side, or at least stopped bothering me about it. The group chat has been dead quiet since my mom told everyone to let Mark be. I told my landlord to send any future packages for Lena back to her. I wiped all my accounts, changed every password, locked down everything. I even put a camera up in the hallway, just in case someone tries to mess with my door. Some people keep saying I'm being harsh, but honestly, I don't owe them anything. I'm not going to play therapist or let them talk me into fixing what they broke. If they wanted a different outcome, they should have acted differently. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just not interested. I'm not blocking people for drama. I'm blocking because I want peace. And if that means Gustavo and Lena have to genuinely face the consequences, so be it. I know this isn't a perfect resolution. I'm not magically healed. I'm not suddenly happier. I still feel strange when I see certain things in my apartment, but I'm not letting these people back in my life. Not ever. If anyone's reading this and considering giving people like that another chance, don't. You don't owe anyone your peace of mind or your space. Anyway, that's it. If anything else wild happens, I'll post. But I think I'm finally done. I appreciate the people who actually understood. And for everyone else saying I went too far, maybe try getting stabbed in the back before you judge.